Hey guys, Mickey Swafford, Chattanooga Jiu-Jitsu Academy, ready for part one of Fix Your Fundamentals. We're going to be talking about the collar choke today. Alex, please. So the collar choke, super important technique in Jiu-Jitsu. We see it in a lot of places. That's why we're putting it in the Fix Your Fundamentals. So we're going to go over three main teaching points with the collar choke, right? So with a basic collar choke, double in, it just looks like this. Nothing too crazy, nothing too fancy about it, but there's actually a lot of detail in here to make this technique work. First thing we're gonna look at is I need to get my first hand in deep. The reason I need to get my first hand deep and I need to get my first hand correct before I start attempting with my second hand actually doesn't need to be that deep. It doesn't have to finish the choke, especially when I understand the mechanics correctly. So we're gonna talk about what that first hand going deep looks like. So from here, I wanna stick my hand in the collar and I want to shoot it behind the neck and I'm going to grab. If I rotate Alex to kind of this angle right here, what you'll see is when my hand goes in, it goes deep, but it's kind of resting right here behind his neck, actually kind of angled slightly down kind of towards his back here. We rotate angles even a little bit more. What you'll see more importantly maybe that I don't do is I don't take the slack away from this side. So when I shoot my hand in nice and deep right here, the second hand can go in very fast and it can land very fast. If I shoot my hand in, and maybe I do shoot my hand in deep, I get that part of it correct, but I pull the collar tight, when I go to put my second hand in, I'm gonna have a real hard time getting my hand much more than that. And I can maybe finish the choke from there, but I'm at the end of where I can finish the choke successfully. So again, if from this position, if I put my hand in deep in this position, but I don't rob the collar, you know, see how kind of loose that collar is right there? I can shoot the second hand in deep in this position, and then from here, finish the collar choke very easy. So part one, get the hand deep inside the collar. The second part is, just this is the best angle to kind of see what my hands are doing. When I put my hand in, it's in this position. When I put my second hand in, it's in kind of the same position. I'll angle my body sideways, which gives me a little bit more range of motion to get this second hand deep, right? Once that hand's deep, I reset my body to here. Now, when I start to rotate my arms here, kind of fixing this and cleaning this up is a huge part of the technique. I want to rotate my arms first of all, and I'll kind of dip them down a little bit so it's easier to see, to this position, right? A lot of guys will do this, and that's kind of where they go from, that's all they do. It's not bad, we can make that a little bit better. I want the narrow part of my arm cutting into the neck, right? Two reasons. One, the narrow can get a better bite on the choke, or on the neck, which can make the choke better. The second reason is, from this position, Alex can put his chin down, the guy can put his chin down into the choke. Once I rotate my arms to this position, I've taken that space away and he can't put his chin down, right? So that second part of the technique is gonna be arm rotation, getting a good arm rotation together. But the kind of part of this where I think a lot of people miss, and that there's some additional slack that we can take out, and this starts to become very important when I'm trying to finish a choke with a less than perfect grip with my second hand. The reality is most of the time I have a less than perfect grip with my second hand. So it's 1, 2, 3, pretty good. The last part of this is as my elbows come to my ribs, which is gonna be the third point, right? As my elbows come to my ribs, I'm gonna roll my wrist up just to this position. So as I get here, as I'm pulling my elbows in, I'm gonna roll my wrist up to this position. Third point, elbows touch my inside of my elbows, touch my rib cage. After my elbows touch my rib cage, I really want to, a lot of times from here, people will say pull your arms out, or sometimes even people will say pull your arms back. That's not terrible. What a lot of people have a tendency to do, especially if you don't really roll your wrist, we'll have a tendency to get right here and we want to pull our arms out like that, and that is bad. We're losing a lot of strength and a lot of efficiency there. So what I want to do from here, again, this, curl my wrists up, my elbows come to my side. I essentially want to forget about my grip for a second. I want to envision that I keep my elbows touching my side, and I actually try to touch my elbows together in my back at my spine. And you can't do it, but what that will cause you to do is open up your chest at the right time, keep those elbows nice and tucked, and you're gonna use your bigger muscles to finish the choke. So what happens is, even if you see right here with what is, we would all consider kind of to be a loose choke or a poor placement on my second hand, but it's just realistic of what happens sometimes when we're rolling. Right here, this is not great, but if from here, right now, from this position, I can't stop. Even if I do this, Alex can get his chin down. If he wiggles it back and forth, he can get his chin in. Not that he should, that's not the correct way to defend this. But if I roll my arms to this position, thumbs towards each other, narrow towards narrow, he can't really fight his arm in there. From here, how much pressure, like 1 to 5, Alex?
3.
3. From here, if I curl my wrist up as my elbows come to my rib cage, how much pressure now?
7.
7. And then from here, I continue to expand to finish the choke. So even on a super loose choke, we'll make it a little looser because Alex's hobby is getting choked. So we're here, in this position. This is super loose, right? We see how loose this is. But from here, if I turn my thumbs in, really roll them up, my elbows to my side, I expand my chest, I'm still able to make the guy tap. So we're almost always working with that second hand being less than perfect. So if I do those 3 things, first hand needs to be deep and it can't rob the collar from the second hand. These are like, you know, salt and pepper, hamburgers and fries, man. They go together. They're teamwork, right? So from here, this hand goes here, second hand goes under. Once I'm in this position, I want my thumbs to go towards each other. And then as my elbows come to my side, I make this wrist curl to this position. Elbows come to my side. I'm going to expand my chest and try to pull my elbows together in my back. If I do all 3 of those things, I'm going to drastically tighten up my collar choke, and my success rate for finishing guys on chokes that normally wouldn't make the person tap or be able to put the person to sleep before, all of a sudden I'm going to start getting taps now, and I'm going to start kind of putting the guy to sleep, which is what we're in the business of doing. On the next piece, we're just going to see it from the guard, see what it looks like from the guard, and then we'll go from there. All right, guys, so now we're going to go to the ground. We're just going to look at this technique from the guard. So now, one thing, I open up the lapel. Always this hand's going to help out. I open up the lapel so the hand can shoot deep, have good access right here to get deep behind the neck. From here, angle my body a little bit, shoot my hand in, right? I don't want it to be super, super tight for practice sake. I mean, it's great if I can get it as deep as I can ultimately, but from here, just for demonstration's sake, I'm gonna rotate my thumbs towards each other. I'm gonna curl my wrists up, pull my elbows down. I pull it forward with my legs, expand my chest, pull my elbows down to finish, right? Good? Perfect. So again, if my second hand is a little bit looser than that, maybe sometimes this is how you're gonna catch it. If I go to put my hand in the collar, a lot of times right now he starts to posture up, right? When he starts to posture up, and I have to keep my elbow down, right? So the second hand I'll shoot right here and I'll get this grip. This is a very realistic grip of what you would get when you're rolling. A lot of people think they can't finish the collar choke from here. From here, I'm gonna again, rotate my thumbs towards each other, curl my wrist, elbows here, expand my chest, and finish, right? So I've still got plenty of bandwidth to finish from that position. If you set your first hand deep, if your first hand is deep and your first hand is good, that second hand, you need to play around and figure out when you have it and when you don't have it. A lot of times guys give up on collar chokes that they have. Once we understand the elements of turning our thumbs here, curling our wrists to this position, and then really keeping those elbows glued to our chest and expanding, we're gonna finish a lot of those collar chokes that we didn't think we could finish in the past. All right, guys, we're gonna go to the ground now, and we're gonna do this from the mount. A little bit different from the mount. Requires a little element of kind of understanding the order of operation, the timing, and you have to develop a little bit of coordination to kind of feel super comfortable doing this with the double in. With the 1 in, 1 out, different variation of collar chokes, a little bit easier. Alex, please. We want to start by, when the mounted position, if his collar's super tight, I'm going to put a hand in, maybe open it up, put another hand in, that way it's open for me and his collar's kind of exposed. Obviously from here, I can't shoot my hand behind his neck. One of the kind of concepts when I'm mounted is I put my hand inside the collar, I want to put my knuckles on the ground. And I may not, when I go to choke him, I'm actually going to change that up. But in the beginning, I may have my hand here. If his hands are up, we're doing whatever, maybe working the arm locks, Americanas, all that kind of stuff. So I put my hand inside the collar, second hand goes in, hand on the ground. Right now, once I start to initiate this choke, again, I have to have a kind of my order of operation here matters. I'm gonna actually pull my hands up just a little bit off the ground so I can rotate my thumbs towards each other and get a bite on his neck. I'm still gonna curl this up, but you're gonna not see that because I'm gonna be folding my head down to put my head on the ground. Remember, anytime we're doing a collar choke, our head always goes to the side of the hand of the arm that's on top. So if I put my right hand in the collar, the second hand comes underneath and I rotate like this, my head's gonna go towards this side. It's a little bit tricky, but that's the way we kind of figure it out. If you do it wrong, the wrong way, it'll feel awkward and it'll take pressure off the choke. That's kind of the rule on that. So again, my hand's here, second hand goes in. From this position, I'm getting ready to initiate the choke. So as I start to lean forward, my hands will come up a little bit and I'll get a bite on his neck. Just that right there. I'm not trying to pick him up off the ground or anything dramatic or crazy. It's just this. As I do that, my head's gonna start going down, my elbows find my rib cage, my knees go wide, my heel's kind of under his butt, and from here, I expand the choke. Key concept on this is, I actually want my weight The contact point for my body, I want my weight to kind of teeter-totter back and forth on my forearms. I don't want the majority of my weight to be in my head or the majority of my weight to be in my knees when I'm in the finishing position. I want the majority of my weight to be right here in his neck. And again, my head may be on the ground, my knees may be on the ground, but I'm using them more of contact points and points of base than I am putting my weight on them to support my weight. My weight's actually gonna be on his neck as I'm doing the choke. So again, one more time, just to get order of operation. Hand inside the collar, second hand in. From this position, don't try to turn your thumbs like this right now and keep your knuckles on the floor. You end up stacking your elbows on top of themselves like this and kind of making a frame to support your body weight. You gotta pick up a little and get a bite on his neck, right? And he'll feel that instantly when you do it, right? From this position, I pick up a little, get a bite on his neck, my head goes down, my elbows separate. We're gonna do that one more time. So okay guys, one more time. I put my hand in the collar, good. Second hand goes under. From here, lift up a little, get a bite on his neck, my head goes down, my knees go wide, I expand my chest to finish, right? So guys, when we're attacking with this choke from the mount, we need to practice it to where we develop the coordination of kind of the order of operation, right? So again, remember both hands here, a slight pickup, rotate your thumbs here. As I'm folding myself down, and you can't see it from the angle when I'm doing it, but as I'm folding myself down, I'm curling my wrists up. My elbows are separating and coming to my ribs. They're not separating wide like this. They're separating and coming to my ribs, expand my chest, knees wide, making my hooks. All right, guys, so one of the concepts that's kind of baked in the cake in jiu-jitsu is that we just can't take our technique that we want to do on somebody. We just can't force it on the other person, right? This technique needs to work on a person who's bigger and stronger than us, right? So part of what we do in jiu-jitsu is we'll have a technique and we're going for one technique, i.e. a collar choke or something like that. And then we have other techniques that come off that based on if the person defends the technique incorrectly, right? We've got arm locks, triangles, sweeps, all kinds of stuff like that. So the better our collar choke is, right? The better our double end collar choke is, then the better pathway we're gonna have to that. If we can truly make the person kind of run for their life, so to speak, from the collar choke, they're gonna fall into a lot of other traps, whether it's arm lock, sweeps, or that type of stuff. We've had a lot of people come here from other schools, and real quick they kind of see that we put a heavy emphasis on collar chokes. We had a guy come from a school, he's a purple belt, he's a high-level purple belt. He came from a school, the main instructor there fought the UFC several times. And one of the things that he said is when he first learned jiu-jitsu, that it was kind of said to him is that the collar chokes only work on white belts, so there's not much value in the technique. He's a smart guy, and he said, hey, if there's not much value in the technique, I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to do it. He didn't put any emphasis on it. He just kind of forgot about it. He moved here, started training here, got collar chokes a lot. He saw the value in it. Right, so for a couple months, he was coming and asking me a question every single day, either about how to be better at doing the collar choke or how to be better at defending the collar choke. And what we saw with him is something that you rarely ever see in jiu-jitsu, and that's a high-level guy, somebody who's been training 6 or 7 plus years, is that he got a lot better at jiu-jitsu in a very short amount of time because he didn't just get better at the collar choke, right? The collar choke made his arm locks better, they made his mount game better, they made his guard game better, they made his sweeps better, they made everything better. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with this Fix Your Fundamental series. We're trying to take and pick the low-hanging fruit, the things that we can do that are gonna have the biggest impact across your game. So what we would recommend is take this technique that we did today, practice it with your partner, practice it with a training partner, practice it with a buddy at the academy when you're warming up, when you're whatever, all these details of it, practice it, implement it in your game, give us feedback, get in the comment section, give us feedback on if it worked, if it didn't work, kind of what went from there. The one thing we ask is that, if you tried it, our technique out and you liked it, get in the comment section, give us some positive feedback, let us know. If you tried the technique and you didn't like it, just bury it deep down inside, put guilt and all that other stuff on top of it, and just don't ever bring it up again to anybody. No, if you didn't like it or it didn't work for you, let us know. We can always use the comment section to kind of help us to determine what future content we're going to put out, and we may even do some follow-up videos. If there's misunderstandings, if there's any of that kind of stuff, we could definitely do some follow-up videos on that as well. So guys, we appreciate you joining us. We appreciate you tuning in. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the mats.